One thing that I found when I was, in my younger years that gave me a lot of anxiety, when I would receive emails or texts from my boss at like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And then, that moment that thing comes in, you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to respond like now. Hi everyone, welcome to Can We Just Talk Career Edition.
As you might know, Can We Just Talk is a Her World series where we provide inspiration and useful insights to help you live your best life.
This Career Edition is based on our 2024 What Women Want survey, which is an island-wide questionnaire where we profile Singaporean women largely between 25 to 40 to find out their thoughts on the most pressing issues when it comes to the career and the workplace.
And today's topic is on work-life balance, in particular for working parents as well as mental health. And we have our guests with us today, Jade and Sabrina.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jade Kua. I wear several hats. I work in the emergency department and I specialize in both general and pediatric emergency. I'm also the founder of Jade Life and Wellness Coaching Academy, where we provide workshops and talks to parents, youth, and coaches as well.
Hi, my name is Sabrina. I'm the founder of Skin Ink Supplement Bar, and Skin Ink is found on the premise of me having eczema and my children. So after 11 years in IT, in corporate, I decided to reboot beauty with technology. And I'm also a founder of Sabi AI, which is the new AI wellness app that tracks your lifestyle and environmental stressor that affects up to 80% of your skin.
So I wanted to kick off the discussion with one of the statistics that we found from our survey. So when we asked our readers about work-life balance, a surprising statistic actually showed that 14% said that they feel that yes, there is work-life balance, which means the other, 86% says no, or maybe not. So is this something that's surprising to you?
Those statistics are not shocking, but it's great to finally be able to document an objective number.
Do you think that this is a prevalent problem more so in like Singapore or just Asia in general?
I think it's accurate to say that internationally people have been saying that they prefer to have better work-life balance, particularly since COVID. I think during that time the conversations really came up about the stresses that they felt. Even if you take into account new routines like working from home, most people are complaining that they seek a better life.
Yep.
And is that possible in this lifetime?
14% is extremely low though.
Yeah.
It's like not even a quarter.
Yes.
Especially for Asian societies, right? We have this whole like hustle culture, work overtime. Like you don't want to leave before your boss does because you feel that looks bad on you. So I was just curious as to whether that comes into play as well in terms of the work-life balance.
That's a good point. I think certainly in Asian societies, we tend to be quite hierarchical. And so employees tend to be quite respectful. So to your point about how employees tend to leave after bosses, I think that's certainly playing its part out here in the current bad situation of work-life balance being almost non-existent, if only 14% of people are saying they have that. Also, I think we tend to be quieter. So up until, the whole COVID pandemic, when people were a bit more vocal about how they felt, it was more normal to be quiet, even if you were uncomfortable with the situation.
Do you guys also feel like you have good work-life balance? And what does good work-life balance mean to everybody?
When I first started my business, my kids were 3-year-old and 1-year-old. So in retrospect, there isn't really work-life balance, right? Because it's a startup and I have to work really long hours. But I guess it boils down to your 3 big rocks in your life. If you're very clear of your 3 big rocks in your life, the rest of the pebbles can come into a jar, right? So my 3 big rocks was my family, my work, and my God. I surround my decision making around those, and it's no longer about what takes time away from me, but what can I give more life to the time I have on hand. It's a mindset shift. And I always feel like from a management point of view, I always tell my team, guard your energy. Your time is finite. So I don't care whether you work like 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. But if you are able to give your best in that burst of energy and with impact, I don't care whether you work from home or you go to work daily. My niece started like a hawker stores, and I don't see that is work-life balance at all.
Okay.
It's part of work-life integration because they're always on. Right? Which means to say, it doesn't stem from time, it stems from purpose. It means that what are you pursuing?
at Hobble, we're very inspired by, inspirational women such as yourself. And I think both of you wear multiple hats. Jade, for yourself, I think you are still in the medical practice, and then you have your life coaching as well. So how do you personally find work-life balance?
I don't feel like the work I'm doing is very disparate or unlinked. In fact, I feel like it's very integrated because it's all in that wellness and illness spectrum. As we evolve in our lives and as we go through different parts of our journey, all of us will shift on that spectrum a little bit. So it's really about acknowledging when we feel less well and when we might need to seek help. And I think that might be where the answer to getting better might lie, because we might never be perfect, but we could always try to get better at what we're doing so that we can be also better moms, workers, friends, colleagues to others as well. So much as we want to have a better sense of well-being for ourselves, it's also to provide better social support for the people around us. And that's what community building is all about. It's really all about holistic health and living. And therefore, I don't feel so torn, between the different hats that I wear. What's coming up for me as I listen to Sabrina share is that when we talk about work-life balance and work-life harmony or integration, it's interesting because it comes from two different perspectives, right? From the employer's point of view, it's easier, obviously, to have sort of broad strokes and to say, these are the benefits I want to provide for my employee. These are what I'm willing to do as the employer. So it's very broad strokes, and they sort of look at the company and the staffers as a whole. But the problem is that every individual is different. So everyone's concept of, as you say, work-life integration, work-life harmony, it's different. Some people want to work from home more. Some people prefer to compartmentalize and work in an office. The trick, therefore, is for a company to be able to deliver something that appears to be a bit more tailored to an individual, or at least has that flexibility, so that their employees as a whole feel like they have some form of work-life balance. They can make decisions for themselves, so they feel better in general about their work. It's about perspective, I feel. And therefore, if we can't change a system or the circumstances, sometimes we have to focus on coping strategies so that their employees can still give their best self at work.
Women leaders tend to be more empathetic. So if you feel that, certain area that you need some leeway from your employer or for your team, customize and tailor-make that management style in a way that is like a strength finder. So my approach to each employee is very different because I want to draw the strength out of them, yet know that I truly understand when you hit a roadblock or you truly have a challenges during that season of your life, that I'm able to say, hey, let's work this through together. And that transparency and that relationship needs to be in place before you can even talk about positive outcome of your work, the productivity and so forth. Therefore, I felt that for employee that you feel like you don't have control over your work-life balance, set that expectation with your direct report. If you are able to make a pact and say, this is what I'm going to deliver, this is what I need you to give me some leeway. Because employee is actually assets of the company. You have a lot of say.
But Sabrina, what as a company can you do for your employees as well to make sure that they are better support in terms of like mental health resources, or if they are going through burnout, what can we as employees do to go to our companies and be like, hey, I need help?
One thing I encourage my employee, please continue to exercise, go for your yoga, go for your boxing. That's one thing. Second, of course, self-care. I mean, we're very big in self-care because women tend to want to take care of many other people, many things before we take care of ourselves. The third thing is being transparent with my team. When I went for therapy, I told my team, this is a season of grief for me, where my father passed, my dog passed, my cat passed, my mother-in-law passed, all in 10 months. It's actually a season of quietness and stillness for me. I just need to really take time off. And I took a month off. I said no text, no email. And I did that. Because it's better that you heal yourself during this season than everything go down. I think the fourth is mainly having that support system amongst team members. Like fostering teamwork is very, very important because I think employees feel stressed when they feel like they're being outcast, targeted, or they're alone. The boss don't understand, the colleague don't understand. So we encourage a lot of that team building
Fostering a very
Yeah.
open culture within the company
Exactly.
outside of just policies.
Yeah.
To bring it back to the survey that we did, it says that 86% of our respondents actually said that they experience burnout. So
Yes.
86%, that's a really high amount. From a company perspective or from an organizational perspective, how do you think companies can actually help in terms of policy or in terms of from a HR kind of point of view, help employees find their work-life balance or help with, in terms of mental wellness?
We talked a little bit about being transparent, right? And that's super important. So I think employers can at least provide that support system for your employees
Yeah.
by giving them referrals to maybe a mental wellness company, whether it's coaching or mentoring or counseling, whatever, saying that it is okay to not be okay, but it's okay also to seek help. So encouraging that some of the activities might not have to be a full-on therapy session, but you can organize sort of benefits for your employees to go to. And it says something about the employer as well, that they're not afraid to have conversations about mental wellness. They're not afraid to say, hey, part of our health benefits doesn't just have to be about physical checkups, but it can also be about mental wellness, social support systems. So I think that's super, super important. Maybe also understanding that your employees need not necessarily have to produce an MC to say that they need to take a mental wellness day off. I think that would encourage people to take their rest days more. So I think a lot of organizations are starting to take steps in the right direction. Probably need to learn from one another and see that, hey, it was okay. It didn't really affect their profit margin in a negative way once they started allowing employees to work from home, take wellness days off, and also to provide social support. In fact, it might positively influence their profit margins because happy employees are generally better employees.
With the leadership style, I feel like you follow through. You don't just say, we have this panel that you can go to, you can take a day off, but follow through. Like, how are you? Just really an open-ended question for someone to know that you truly care is very important. So a lot of HR team, please hear this, follow through is not just really a check in a box from the company.
I think opening up conversations is very important because I personally feel that sometimes it's very difficult to talk about such things. Both employers and employees need to really just be more open.
I think it's also important that you brought up, like, it's not just so much on a checklist, right? Because I think there are companies that do offer mental health and mental wellness benefits right now, but not a lot of employees take it. Why do you think there is this hesitation? Is it back to, like, again, Asian culture where we're like too shy to ask for help, or the resources are there but we don't want to reach out for it because I have to admit that I have a problem?
86% actually suffering from this symptom means that there is a gap in the way they feel not in a safe zone to do that. When I went for my therapy, I was very cynical because I'm like, what is my therapy going to tell me to do? Because I feel like I have answer for many things, right? But actually, it's not telling you the answer. It's how do you derive to the answer? How you think is very important because it gives you a lot of clarity. When you have more clarity, that gives you a safe space. It's important to keep drumming in, providing that sanity and safe zone for your employee to think it is okay to take on a therapy session just to know yourself better, how you think and how you actually de-stress. It is a mindfulness training rather than a therapy to me.
But how did you get over your cynicism into going into therapy?
I recognize symptoms that is not usual and I realized that, hey, if I'm doing everything the same but the outcome is different, means something is off tune. And I recognize it's a season of grief and that's when I feel like what I'm feeling in the heart and my head sort of get jammed up. I'm like, okay, then there is a gap that I need a professional to tell me why is it like that. The pattern identifying is important for you to say, why not? Just one conversation. I really went in with a why not. So by seeking help, you actually is helping the team as well.
To apply that to the question of what can HR do, I feel like it's important not to rush through and have a checklist of mental health issues and resources that you provided for employees and then put it in a PDF somewhere in your intranet and that's it. Good job, well done. Like, it's probably much more important to take the time to recognize the prevalence of, say, burnout, for example, in an organization, It's a difficult conversation to have and acknowledge from an HR and an employer's point of view for sure. But taking that time is important and finding out what it is that your employees need in this organization, which might be quite different from what someone else's employees need in another organization, just because every organization is different. And also, I think I wanted to acknowledge something that you said, Cheryl, which is that it's hard. Right? We need to acknowledge that there is stigma around this. So we're taking baby steps towards seeking mental wellness and overall wellness for everybody, but we're still dragged behind by some stigma, which is certainly more prevalent in Asian societies, although it is a worldwide issue. But in Asian societies, for sure. Therefore, I feel like we need to actually walk the talk, to normalize the conversations.
Yeah.
So what employers could do, or HR could do, is to really take the time to normalize these conversations and to say, this is totally normal. It's like encouraging your employees to go for a bike ride or a walk together. If you need some help, here's a list of counselors. And that's really important, to take the time to cultivate that culture of trust and safety.
And one more thing I need to add is the confidentiality. Going back again to the safe zone, right? Whatever you share is confidence, confidential. And I think it's very important that that is really put in place, right?
I agree with what you say. I always tell everyone in our team that actually SPH offers 2 free therapy sessions, and I'm like, go and take it, it's free, like why not, right? Even if it's like what Sabrina says, sometimes it's just a session for you to go in and just discover about yourself, and especially with so much therapeutic services are actually a bit more on the expensive end, and it's not as accessible to a lot of people. I've claimed it, and I'm not like ashamed to say that I've claimed it and it has helped me. Just try it out. It's free, right? Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for talking about that at work, but also thank you for having sessions like these where we can talk about these mental wellness issues and normalize these conversations. I mean, you're right, a lot of employees have benefits like dental benefits, right? And you definitely use them.
Yeah.
Or claiming your taxi fare after a certain time.
Yeah.
Like nobody would look at you and say, why are you so money grubbing? You've gone to claim your taxi claim, right? But somehow it's different when people draw down from their therapist's benefits or going to see a counselor. And that's something that needs exploring. What's happening to us that we feel guilty or extraordinary about drawing down from mental wellness benefits?
I guess it's like what we talked about in our docu-series as well, where it's invisible conditions, right? Like Sabrina said, if you have a flu, you go to the doctor, you get an MC. No one questions that. But the moment it becomes something that's not tangible, people can't see, then there's a lot of question, right? It's like, oh, are you really not feeling well?
sick?
Or it's just like, are you really burnt out? Or are you just like not resilient enough? And like resilience, again, different people have different thresholds. Just because one person is not as resilient as the other, then suddenly you are the one that is like weak.
Personally, for myself, I think having these conversations even helped me to open my mind as well. On the topic of working moms, it says in our survey that 1 in 3 respondents actually said that they have experienced discrimination or career setbacks because of their personal lives, and 41% say that becoming a mom actually contributed to their career setback. Is this something that is shocking? When I saw that stat, I felt a bit sad, because I think starting a family is very much part of the human life, right? Did you experience it yourself? Or do you work with teams who have perhaps become moms and then, kind of felt like it impacted their career?
I'm a very big advocate for mom being superhuman, because first you create a human, and then on top of that, you work to bring the dough back to feed the human. And to me, it's like, then your decision-making skills really heighten, because you need to make the best decision in the shortest time. And that is really training of the mind. So to me, it is very important for you to actually be very proud that you are a mom, you are a working mom.
I think the reason why many women experience career setbacks after they become mums is because when they take time off, to look after their children, their employers might feel like this is time off from work completely. And then when they return to the workforce, they are behind because they have not contributed, they have not learned, and the company has moved on in skills, but the mom is behind. But this is a misconception, because as Sabrina has said, during the time that one is parenting or learning to become a parent, incredible skills are learned. So as they figure out how to deal with human financial resources, priorities, strategies, short-term solutions, and long-term, forecasts, when they come back to the workforce, actually, they're much more resourced than before. Unfortunately, this is not recognized. The statistic is not a surprise to me. I really hope we can change this somehow. It's a real pity that the skills that I learned during parenting are not acknowledged in the workplace.
These are really soft skills that workplace don't really teach you, but you actually equip yourself being a mom.
Did you feel like you both became better leaders after becoming mom?
Yes, and I think also better collaborators, because you have to collaborate with your gynae, perhaps, on a plan on how to move forward, your husband, in-laws, you know, these are all the stakeholders, the key stakeholders. So for sure, I think there's a lot of learning, but it's difficult to articulate it to your employer. So it's really sad that people tend to be held back in terms of promotions or salary increments because they have spent time away from the organization.
I mean, on a national level, in 2025, there will be an increase in maternity and paternity leave. What are your thoughts on that?
You have to take care of the family first before you have a nation. And if there is a current gap at that place, that is the right strategy. Yeah, because why do you work? You work for your loved ones, you work for your family, you work for your own purpose. So this is a wisest strategy, I feel. It's just that you need to put contingency plan or a succession plan during that season. If you look at it from a long-term perspective, I have an employee that's been with me 13 years. I mean, what is that 6 months? And if you can keep that productivity going on with this employee, is a good ROI?
I mean, I think on a national level, the fact that the government has recognized this is really a huge step forward for everyone, because then companies now also be like, okay, this is something that on a national level is like,
Has to be implemented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How wonderful it is that we're taking steps in the right direction on a national level, which is therefore systemic. I also wanted to say it's important that these plans aren't taken in silos. So it's like, okay, we've given them more parental leave. That's great. Good job, well done. But rather that's looked at, on the context of the spectrum of that person, right? From cradle to grave, so to speak. So it's really important for things we should care about, right? Social mobility, how to improve the livelihoods of everybody so that we can all move ahead.
In the survey, 54% of employees said that they worked overtime weekly. We spoke a little bit about it at the start, about it being like an Asian mindset. But why are we so fixated on working overtime?
People tend to show the best self to the employer or to your loved one or to your social media following. So I think if they perceive that doing overtime is something that the employer wants to see, then they're going to be more vocal about that, and they're going to stay back even if they're not really doing efficient work.
Yeah.
The onus is on the employer, therefore, to say, this is not something we encourage. If you need more time to do your tasks, that's fine. But if you can do it more efficiently and leave, we're not going to give you more tasks so that you land up sitting from 9 to 5 just for the sake of fulfilling those hours. So that sort of culture is something that's important. Some of my employees that come in through Jade Life and Wellness Coaching Academy, when they come in, they're like, don't worry, Dr. Jade, we'll give 200% of ourselves. And I'm like, I don't really want that though. First of all, there isn't 200% of you. There's 100% of you. And part of that's going to come to work, part of that's going to go to the causes you care about, part of that's for your family or just yourself. So I don't want 200% of yourself. And that's not really the attitude that I want you to feel you have to come in here in order to impress me as the employer. I'd just like you to give enough to get the work done. And I understand that sometimes the work requires more time, and that's cool. But I also understand that sometimes you can do it more quickly. And that's fantastic. That should be celebrated. So everyone's different. We certainly shouldn't glorify the overtime culture just for the sake of feeling like we're doing more work and we're, making more money as an organization. We shouldn't be proud of that. But we should understand some people require a little bit more time to get things done.
That's true, but I think there's also that fear, right? Because I have been in companies in the past where you do your work efficiently and you get punished for it, They always say like if you're good at your job, you get punished with more work. So I think some people are just trying to evade that. What can we do to find a good middle ground?
I think from the employer's perspective, they could probably be more transparent about what it is they're actually looking out for. Are you looking for a person that is sitting there many, many hours, and is that the person that's going to be rewarded? Are you looking for someone who is able to work healthily, happily, is a good influence on other people, provide social support? Like, what exactly are you looking for? And this shows up in the people you promote, the people you celebrate. If you only highlight the people who have worked extra hours, that says something about you as an employer. So I think having sort of like a holistic mindset as an employer itself, as the organization, is really important.
Yep.
And then the staffers will realize, well, you know, I could do all this OT, and it's fine. Like I say, if that's your style, or if you're, you know, trying to supplement your income, that's fine. But I shouldn't be doing it because I think this is the only way that my employer is going to recognize me. That's really important. That really needs to come from the employer.
Once you have a spirit of excellence that is a bearing within you, you find the best way to solve a problem, or the best way to create an impact. They themselves are self-governed. That is the kind of employee you want to reward, because they themselves lead themselves. And that doesn't equate to the hours you work. And I want to emphasize that, because we tend to like, oh, everyone stay back, I better stay back. But my team stay back, I go home, you know. Because I tell them 7 o'clock, I eat dinner with my kids. 7 to 10, that is the time I blocked out since they were very young. You can't reach me, because I do need to dedicate that 3 hours to my kid, put them to bed, pray with them. And then I go back to my call, and I go back to my email. But there is a flexibility I also want, and I give to my team. Like, some of them are sleep very late. So, you know, some of my employees, there's a staggered time to report to work. There's a few of them is 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So they log off later because they cannot wake up. And some, the warehouse team, they want to come to work early because they want to go home early. So they log in at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that kind of flexibility that
Super important.
I think employer can extend to the team.
It occurs to me that we're also trying to replace, and this is a very Singaporean thing, right? That culture of kiasuism with respect. Because it really is about respect. It's about employers respecting that their employees are meant to work with them, but they also have their own lives. And it's about employees respecting ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Even if your employee isn't rushing off to go and pick up kids or do a ton of other stuff, even if they're just logging off because they just want to do their own thing. That's respect too. This is just simply about respecting people's time and lives.
Yeah, I think it's very important to acknowledge that, because some people do experience that, right? Where they have to pick up the slack for other people within the company just because they have like bigger priorities such as a family. But, you know, people who are single also have other priorities in life, right? It doesn't only have to be about kids. It could be like what we shared, their own parents, their own mental wellness. They might have their own personal issues that they're facing that's equally as important, that should be recognized as well. I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is just really being very intentional with whatever time you have, whatever pockets of time, whether you're at work or whether you're in the office, use it very wisely.
I highlight one point about recuperating. That means it's not so much of how hard you work, but it's how well you recover. And because we're in retail, sometimes we have like campaign, like 11:11, the whole team will be up from 12 midnight until like 3 a.m. because it's 11:11, right? When you give certain leeway, you know, and you respect that time, when they have to pull in the hours during this kind of peak season, the team are more willing because they know they serve a purpose, and you are never exploiting them during the lower season.
In one of the episodes previously that I was a part of, we spoke about leadership and culture. And the topic about role modeling came up. And I think both of the examples you gave, Jade and Sabrina, were about setting examples as a role model. You know, if I need to knock off at 7, I should also not assume that my employees would want to stay beyond 6 or 7 in the office if I myself have my responsibilities at home, right? So personally for me, I think one thing that I found when I was, you know, in my younger years that gave me a lot of anxiety, but I would receive emails or texts from my boss at like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And then, you know, that moment the thing comes in, you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to respond like now. And right now, you know, I make sure that, you know, I don't, as much as I can, not to email or message someone after like 7 p.m. because I feel that it's so anxiety inducing. You should use schedule send. That's like the perfect tool.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, schedule send for next morning, because these tools are really there to help us create, I think, a more pleasant workplace for everyone.
I think right now also modern working culture, it's very much like a two-way street, right? Like what you said, good employees, you want to retain those people and you want them to be happy as well. So it's easier
It's
if
a
everyone is
partnership.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I find this very, very helpful message that was sent to me last week actually. It's called MRI, modeling, relationship, intentionality, which is actually some of the keywords that both of you use.
Yeah.
And how do you want your kid to love you so that you get an influence of their mind? As a mom, I think it's very important. You are the best role model for them. So they will become who you want them to be because how you behave. So when you're under distress or a lot of anxiety, I think your kid don't want that of you, because the energy giving out is very different. So the same thing with leadership. You don't judge your employee first, you let them talk. So with the openness and transparency, they feel like they can talk to you. And same thing as a mom, you need your kids to be really open with you, right? And the intentionality is always being very purposeful why we are doing this. Let's carve out that intention. And so with the MRI, just really have that govern your parenthood as well as your leadership.
What I'm getting out of this is that, someone like Sabrina, for example, you're not just one person in a certain role and a totally different person in another role, but rather, the person who's the employer is also the person who's the mom, is also the person who's a friend. And so that being intentional and being caring and empathetic, being an open communicator is something that we practice throughout. It sort of harkens back a little bit to what we were saying before about how certain policies for, say, working moms, it shouldn't be in silos of the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
You can't just level up the education of everybody at this point and then forget about the rest later when they're at work. So they all need to be in the background of our current situation. It has to be seen through. So you are the same person that you are when you go into work. You're the same person that you are when you're at home. We are good communicators when we're leaders. We're good communicators with our children as well. It's all the same person because we're not putting anything on. It has to be that genuineness, that authenticity has to come through. And it's super, super important that we continue to have conversations like this so that we can,
Uplift one
support
another.
one another as we go through all this.
Thank you so much, Jade and Sabrina, for your time. I really, really enjoyed our discussion. I learned a lot as well from both of you, so thank you for that.
Thank you for having
No,
us.
thank you for being here
Yeah.
and
And
being
being so
open
open,
about
yeah.
your situations and things like that. Thank you so much for watching. This is our last episode for this edition, but for more career tips, please head over to Her World's website or pick up a copy of our latest print issue. Until next time.